Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. I got a confession for you all, and this is something that many people look at me oddly when I tell them. Me, Neil C. Hughes, tech blog writer, podcast host, do not and cannot drive. Whenever I tell people, they either think I've got some seedy, dark drinking, alcoholic past, or maybe I killed someone in a previous life. But no, it's just something that's never really appealed to me. And as someone that travels the world a lot, I've never had any problems getting anywhere. And I think I was just ahead of my time somewhat. And although for nearly 25 years I've been ridiculed about this, it seems that people are starting to question if they really do need a big car to take them to the office and back every day. We've now got e-scooters and dockless bicycles appearing in city bike lanes, but in great numbers. And there's also a real demand for single-occupant vehicles, which is creating challenges for both providers and government agencies too. But ultimately, in these environmentally conscious times, small is beautiful. And making micro-mobility work for citizens, cities and service providers has got to be a good thing. But there is so much more to the micro-mobility industry than that. So I thought it was time I investigated and got someone on the podcast. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can speak with Jack Mudd, who is going to tell us all about the future of the micro-mobility industry, as well as introduce Onewheel, a self-balancing electric board that's bridging the gap between recreation and transportation by delivering vehicles that feature both elegant form and remarkable function. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Jack Mudd. I run marketing at Future Motion, which is, we're the makers of Onewheel, which is what people might be familiar with. And Onewheel, what is Onewheel? Onewheel is this fantastic way to zoom around the world and experience life. And, it's got one big wheel, as the name would imply, and it's got a motor inside of that wheel and a lot of software that is actively balancing you. So it's not as hard as it looks, I'd say. Everyone can do it, and it creates this wonderfully smooth, very enjoyable riding experience. It's very unique, I would say. And people love it everywhere. There's tens of thousands of one-wheelers in the world, and part of my job is how to get more of them.
I'm curious because we've got listeners in 165 countries. Can you maybe give me an idea of just how far around the world this idea has spread with Onewheel?
Yeah, so it's sort of that classic tale. It started. We started out in the end of 2013, beginning of 2014, with one prototype essentially. At that time, I sort of signed on with the founder and the inventor, whose name is Kyle Dirksen. And Kyle is a tinkerer, and he worked at one of the sort of high-end design firms here in the Bay Area called IDEO. And he was sort of building these one-wheels on nights and weekends in his garage, essentially. He grew up doing a lot of snowboarding. And so for him, the experience of snowboarding on land was sort of the ultimate goal. And he had spent a long time sort of prototyping these boards that combined the advances that in sensor technology from smartphones with the advances in battery technology from companies like Tesla, and wrapped it into this totally new experience. So at the end of 2013, he took a leave of absence from his design firm job, and I sort of ran into him very fortuitously, and together we set out to launch into the world. And if you flash forward, I worked on a couch for the entire first year.
I love it.
It was just me and him, and just we sort of believed in the product because the experience is so unique, and we sort of found our way. And flash forward 5 years. There's, like I said, tens of thousands of one-wheels in the world. We have, over 500 retailers, a lot of which are in Europe and some are in Australia. Yeah, and the brand is really taken on life of its own. We just launched a product called the Onewheel Pint, and the launch video has 10 million views. So it's definitely struck a chord. The product sort of like captures the imagination, and people that ride it absolutely love it.
10 million views is phenomenal. And one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today was to talk a little about the future of the micro-mobility industry, which could be new to a lot of people listening. So can I ask you to set the scene and tell me a little bit more about exactly what the micro-mobility industry is, and also how you're seeing it continuously evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. So the world is changing very quickly in terms of how people move around. And I think one of the things that we recognized 5 years ago that the world is really sort of recognizing as we speak is that small electric vehicles are very, very efficient ways to move around quickly and efficiently. What's exciting for us is that we're a bit ahead of the curve. We have a team that's built out. We have a mature product. We have a lot of IP. And now we're starting to see, there's sort of that hoverboard craze at the end of 2016, and now things are getting a little bit more realistic. We have the scooters and electric bikes, and I think it's all really positive for the world, because I think I think it's clear that it's part of the future, and it's sort of like still looking to find its place. Obviously there's questions about where should these things be allowed to go, how should we fit them into our infrastructure, into our cities. But I think that if we need to in one way or another, and I think we will. So it's exciting. We've definitely been sort of at the beginning of the wave, and it's cool. And I think like it is for us anyways, I can say that it's sort of like an all boats rising type of situation where you have, people look at the scooter, the scooters popping up all over the place, and they ask me if that's good for us, for our business, and truthfully, it's been amazing because it's sort of a proof of concept. People realize that these things make a ton of sense. You hop on a scooter and you get to your work in half the time it would have taken you to walk, and you're like, man, this is that was pretty cool. Maybe there's other ways to do this that sort of speak to me more. It's like cars. There's cars that sort of are suited for every type of person, and that's kind of what we're doing. People have like a very strong emotional connection to their one wheel versus the sort of some of the fleet vehicles, right, where you put it down on the street when you're done. People, a lot of our riders have multiple boards because they want to ride with their friends and their family, and they customize them in every way. And there's sort of this pride of ownership, which is very different. But in general, once you get on a one wheel and you sort of become fluent with it, it's a fantastic way to get around. And like when I go to New York City, I constantly beat the driving instructions, the walking instructions, and sometimes subway instructions. So it's pretty amazing. And to anyone listening, I would say, whether it's a one wheel or a e-bike or whatever, definitely, give it a try, and it's also a lot of fun. So
I got visions of you going around New York, around the crowded streets, saying, "Hey, I'm one wheeling here."
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a bit of a head turner for sure, but yeah, it is fun.
And for some people listening, it will sound like an incredibly niche market, but I do think that everyone is so much more environmentally aware now, and especially around their own personal responsibilities on that. And also, you mentioned there 10 million views of that video, which doesn't sound like a niche market to me. But can you tell me how that micro-mobility market is expanding dramatically at the moment?
Yeah, well, just speaking from my experience, we've gone in 5 years from two people to, now we have probably over 70 employees and growing very quickly. So it's, and that's basically just to, keep along with the growth that we're experiencing. And I think that's indicative of the market as well. We actually just opened the largest light electric vehicle factory in North America, which is very, it's crazy. It's exciting as well. I was over there yesterday, and it's huge. So, Yeah, it's definitely this period of intense growth, and I think I think it needs to continue, as sort of there's a shift away from fossil fuels and stuff. And I think, one of the early thoughts that we had when we launched, right, this was before basically like everything that you see out there on the streets existed, except for the Segway, right? So when we launched, we were very cognizant of sort of becoming the first cool electric vehicle, because we realized, no one wanted to be seen on a Segway. And I think that was, one of the most fundamental problems. And so, yeah, we particularly myself, I sort of like am the manager of the brand, took this very different approach, looked at companies like GoPro and like Red Bull, and wanted to make this, aspirational brand about an electric vehicle, which I think really had never been done before. And, we approached a lot of athletes and sort of have like a hint of action sports in the brand. We've done a lot of cool stuff. This year we went to, we threw a contest to find the most boring town in America. And
where was that? I'm interested.
it was in Martin City, Missouri.
Okay.
Which is, we also realized that's a highly, it's very subjective.
Yeah.
We had submissions from lots of not very boring towns as well. But the debate rate is on. But anyways, yeah, we've done lots of really, really cool and fun stuff to sort of, yeah, make a brand that I don't know, people can relate to. It's not a robotic thing like sort of like the Segway feels like, and yeah, we've definitely built quite a following that's really like introduced electric vehicles to the world as something that's not necessarily really dorky.
Your new board, of course, is called Pint. So can you tell me a little bit more about Pint? Maybe set the scene and tell me why. Actually, there's nothing else like this out on the market, is there, at the moment?
Yeah, really exciting. So basically, up until launching Pint, Onewheels had become faster and they had longer range, and with it, they also got more expensive. So the sort of flagship product to date, and it was our fourth product, was the Onewheel Plus XR. And so that goes about 20 miles per hour and it goes about 20 miles per charge. Can't do the conversion off the top of my head, but it's a long, it's a long way and it goes fast. It's basically what you need to know. And it's premium. Everything about it is premium. Everything, we build them in the US, and it's like, sort of handmade. A lot of the stuff is just top of the line stuff across the board. And like I'd said, we really built this following in this aspirational product and brand. We have about a little over 200,000 followers on Instagram, a large Facebook following as well. And, there's a lot of people that want in on this experience, and it just hasn't been affordable. The Onewheel Plus XR is $1,799. So almost $1,800 US. Yeah. That's a lot of money. People that buy it will tell you it's the best thing they've ever purchased. But if it's a lot to ask. So one of the sort of the spirit of the Pint is to take just the amazing riding experience of riding a Onewheel and to distill it down into a package that's just more approachable and more, allows more people to get in on. So the Onewheel Pint is $950. It's a little bit smaller. It has a really cool sort of like handle. It's called the mag handle that sort of pops out of the hub of the tire, so it's easier to carry. And then it's got all these neat features that sort of make it a little bit easier. It's a little bit more. It feels like a polished product, I would say. It feels like it's like sort of arrived in a way. But yeah, it's wonderful. It's incredibly fun. I think it's the most fun thing that you can get for less than $1,000. That's my bold claim of the day. And it's an exciting time because we're starting to crank them out. And so they're getting sent all over the world right now, and people are absolutely loving it. So it's an exciting time.
And obviously the holiday season's just around the corner, so no doubt you're cranking up ready for that. I'm curious, as people begin to open these around the holiday season, and there are going to be a lot of people getting them on the horizon or thinking about it, what is the learning curve time to mastering it and being able to just, get where you want to be on there?
It's a great question, because you look at this thing and you think like, man, I have to be some sort of circus performer in order to ride it. But yeah, the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of sensors, gyros and sensors in there that are actually actively balancing you. So it's one of these things where actually the less you do, the easier it is. And everyone, I've given thousands of Onewheel demos, and everybody can do it. I've ridden with, we say 14 and older, but I've ridden, I can say off the record or on the record, I've ridden with, 4-year-olds who are amazing. Yeah. And I've also ridden with 84-year-olds who are also great. So,
man, I was just going to say, what about the top end of the scale? What's the oldest you've seen at 84? That's wow.
Well, my mom just got one, and she's very excited. I went out riding with her last week. So yeah, it's more diverse than I think you would assume. And yeah, it's not hard. I think, most people can pick it up. It's actually incredibly intuitive, to be honest. Most people can pick it up in, 5 minutes, I would say, to get good, a half hour or something. But it's not bad at all. We actually just went out to sort of give people an idea, since there's sort of so many new people coming into the brand at this moment. We went out and found a random person off the street and taught them essentially, and filmed it just to give folks an idea of what it is like, what that experience is like. And so you can find that on YouTube if you want to. Maybe we can link it below or something in this, but. Yeah, I think the other thing is that's wonderful about it is, when is the last time that you've done something for the first time? Yeah. When's how recently have you tried something totally new? And I never forget that when I'm giving demos. Sometimes we give hundreds of demos, and at times it can almost feel arduous, right? Because your job and whatever, but it's just absolutely fantastic to share a totally new experience with people, and just the excitement that they have, and the joy that they have. It's wonderful. And I think, it's part of that learning experience is actually part of the fun, I think, in figuring something out that's totally new, and everybody gets it. So. Yeah.
Well, I'll add a video to the blog post that accompanies this podcast, just so everybody listening can go there and see exactly how it works. I'm curious from my own point of view, because I'm quite excited myself about this. What about corners? Is corners a challenge, or
no? It's actually the most maneuverable thing, far more maneuverable than, say, a scooter or really anything else that's on the market, because you're on one wheel. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it's incredibly maneuverable. You can turn around basically like the length of the board. You could navigate incredibly small spaces. I've been actually I don't know if you've been to CES, but you can navigate the show floor with hundreds of people just fine. Yeah, so it's very controlled and very very responsive once you become comfortable. And I think another wonderful thing about it is that there's no remote. There's no remote in your hand, so everything that you do is just based on your own center of gravity and where you're leaning, and it creates this really natural feeling. It doesn't feel like robotic in any way, which I think is part of the magic of it.
Well, it sounds like you've got an incredibly exciting year ahead, but I mean, what's next for you? And indeed, Onewheel. Is there anything else that you can share with me today about future plans? I accept that you probably can't reveal too much, but are there any teasers or anything on the horizon?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's see. For us, I assume everyone wants to know on the product side, right? So I think that, as we've done, we'll continue to sort of create one wheel experiences for all different kinds of people. There's people that want to ride these things off road and go ride trails, which you can do. We just hosted a huge race, one wheel race at North Star, which is a ski resort here in Lake Tahoe in California. We have people zooming down these mountain bike trails, which was incredibly exciting. And there's people that's all they want to do on a one wheel. And then there's people that just want to, get to their work or play around in their driveway, so with their family. So I think we'll continue to see the one wheel product line branch out into to sort of suit those different people. And I think we'll probably also at some point develop, leverage the IP and motor and battery and sensor expertise that we have into different form factors as well. So that'll be exciting, and that's about all I can say about that. But on the brand side, since that's sort of what I do, we want to keep doing. Mostly, we just want to keep having fun. To be honest, and that works for us. More, like I said, we just did this big race. We went to the most boring town in America this year already. I don't know what we have planned for the next few months, but I can tell you it'll be exciting.
Oh man, that sounds good enough to me. Now, I always say that technology works best when it brings people together. And when I did a bit of research about you guys, I arrived on your website, I quickly read that it says you want to use technology to bring us closer together, not farther apart. I mean, was that ethos always ingrained in your company right from the beginning?
Yes, I think so. That comes directly from Kyle. He working at IDEO, he had designed lots of stuff for some of the biggest companies in the world. Been a part of lots of those projects. So, and I think that they're very intentional over there about what they do. I think IDEO is known for sort of like human-centric design, and I think he's brought that into the creation of One Wheel. And fundamentally, One Wheel is something that it gets you outside. You're experiencing the world. We see people going on huge group rides, so it's actually connecting. There's group rides with over 100 riders, I think, which is incredible, right? And we're seeing this amazing community of people rallying around the product, which is it's sort of mind blowing. But yeah, there's these groups in pretty much every city, every major city, absolutely, who share the experience of riding a one wheel together. And even if you're not a part of some big riding group, riding with a friend is an amazing experience, incredibly fun. I've heard all kinds of amazing stories from dads who say that I had trouble connecting with my son, and like this is the first thing that we've been able to bond over, and he's excited to go out and ride, and I get to go ride with him. And it is one of these pieces of technology where you're not looking at your phone, you're not you don't have VR goggles on. It's really it's getting you out into the world, and it's a conduit to experiencing more of what's out there, really, which I think is really cool.
Well, as we're approaching the holiday season, it won't be long till people start building their tech wish lists of everything that they want to get their hands on. So for people that want to find out more details about the Pints, about One Wheel and everything that you're doing there, what's the best way of finding out more information? I assume it's going to be your website and YouTube. And also, is there a way of contacting your team if they've got any questions?
Sure. My cell phone number is no.
555, right?
So you can find out more about One Wheel at onewheel.com. On Instagram, we're at One Wheel. YouTube, if you type in One Wheel, you'll find all kinds of stuff. And if you want to get in touch with us, the best way to do that is to go to info, or to send an email to info@onewheel.com. But definitely go check out what we're doing on Instagram and YouTube. We have a lot of fun. Yeah.
And I suspect there'll be lots of people from St. Martin's in Missouri emailing you and following you on Instagram.
We're already friends with all of them now.
Oh, okay. Well, I love what you're doing there, and you're almost bridging the gap between fun, recreation, and convenience. But the one thing that really stood out for me, having spoken to you there, is the experience of it all. And like you said, do that one thing. When was the last time you did one thing that you've never, ever done before? And everyone's talking about the experience economy now, and that's a big, big part of it. So I'm sure you've got a big hit on your hands. I'd love to hear from you later on this year, see how it gets on, and maybe we can have a catch-up later this year. But a big thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, that was a pleasure, and thanks for having me on.
What a great story. And I cannot thank Jack for coming on today and for explaining what makes Onewheel so unique from other devices out there. And their newest board, Pint, of course, really is attempting to bring that convenience of a small and fun of a small electric vehicle and bring it to the masses. And most importantly, something that's less expensive than most personal transportation options that are out there right now. So as a non-driver, maybe it's time for me to check that out. So wherever you are in the world, just keep a look out of your window. You might see the tech blog writer, podcast host racing down your street. But seriously, what did you think of today's conversation about Onewheel and Pint and how they're attempting to revolutionise the transportation industry and also the future of micro-mobility? And what do you think about the rise of micro-mobility industry too? Is there any thoughts or insights that you can share on that? Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and if there's anything I can help you with, go over to my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, and if I can help you, I will. But it's time for me to sign off now. I'm going to be back tomorrow. We're going to do all this again, but with a different guest, and we're going to talk about how technology is transforming another industry. So I'll see you bright and early tomorrow. A big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.